Recording, Drew.
Thank you so much, Chair Zimmer, for that.
I guess I don't even need to say that to you anymore, right?
Well, I'm getting good with the pausing, right?
So welcome everyone to January 26th meeting of the Technical Advisory Committee. We do have a little bit of a time constraint today, so our goal is to be out of here no later than 3:15. So I may be moving a little bit faster than normal, but of course, if you need to slow me down, please do. We will start with introductions. I will go through the normal reading through. We have mostly the normal group, but a couple of new names for me. Starting with SCTA, RCPA, we have Shauna, Ross, Drew, Adam, a new name, which I'll give you a second to introduce yourself. And I guess that's it. We are a little short on SCTA staff today. From the city of Cotati, Craig Scott, Tony Bertolero from
Gospel.
Thank you. I do that every time. I always want to say Windsor and it throws me off. Rob Sprinkle from Santa Rosa, Ken Eichstad from Petaluma, Edie Takata from Roner Park, and another new name, Jason. Do you want to jump in and say hi, Jason?
Hey everyone, I'm Jason Sampietro. I work with the City Runner Park as an assistant engineer, and I do a lot of traffic-related projects.
Welcome. Thanks, James. Chris Barney, I missed on the SCTA group. Elizabeth Tyree from County Parks. Oriana Hart from City of Sonoma. Mona from Town of Windsor. Joanne from Smart. Steve Urbanik from the county. Nader from the county. And Steve Bertelbaum, you want to jump on and say who you're representing as always, Steve?
Steve Bertelbaum, representing the Transportation and Land Use Coalition. Thank you.
Thank you. And Adam, do you want to jump on and introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everyone. Adam Garcia, data analyst for the SCTA and RCPA. Glad to be aboard.
Thank you. Welcome, Adam.
Thank you.
On to item number 2. We are meeting on Zoom, obviously, and we should be taking a vote to make sure that everyone is in agreement to continue to meet through Zoom for this meeting specifically. But rather than a vote, I would just ask if anyone has any objections to speak or raise your hand. Seeing none, we will assume that passes unanimously and we will continue the meeting on Zoom. Any public comment? Seeing none. Shauna, the item number 4, Brown Act status and updates. Do you have anything to add?
I'm going to actually pass that off to Drew and Ross.
So we know that traditional Brown Act rules are coming back starting March 1st, unless the governor has an 11th hour change, which means starting in March, all of our meetings will be in person, which means all committee members would be required to be in this meeting in person to count toward the quorum. We will still have remote options available. However, committee members who would be remoting in would need to let me know well in advance so I can notice it correctly, get the correct addresses in which remote meetings would be held at, and just doing all that within the Brown Act. If you don't do that and show up as a remote attendee, you would be viewed as a member of the public and would not be able to act on any of the items the committee is being asked to act on. More information, we're working on a one-pager, kind of more of an FAQ to pass out to our committees in February. So this is more of just a heads up, prepare that we will be starting in-person meetings in March. And that if there's anything else that Ross would like to add.
I think you covered it very well. But please stay tuned for some additional information.
Drew, did we talk about doing a test run or a pilot or something in February, or are we just going to let everybody off the hook and just say, be here in March?
On the latter, kind of more be here on March. If you would like us to do a dry run hybrid meeting in February, that can certainly be accommodated. We're doing that for the board meeting on February 6th. But if you would like, is where I would put it. But otherwise, I wasn't planning on it and expecting to see all of the lovely TAC committee members here in person at the SCTA office in March.
So my personal opinion is I would leave it to SCTA to decide whether or not a dry run is necessary, but opening it up to the group if anyone has any further input. Seeing none, thank you, Drew, and we'll look forward to a little more conversation in February on that topic. On to item number 5, the approval of the meeting minutes. Does anyone have any additions, corrections? Seeing none, we are hereby approving meeting minutes of December 1st, 2022. Onward to item 6, SB 743, implementation VMT.
Excuse me, Chair. Excuse me, Larry.
Yes, please.
Just a minor note, I'll abstain. I was not here for that meeting.
Thank you, Craig. So noted.
Great. So yeah, I don't have a lot to update the group on this month for SB 743 and VMT, but I would be happy to answer any questions or see if there are any, anyone has had any experience with the VMT reduction calculator, and just let you know kind of the next thing on our radar is looking more into VMT mitigation banking and exchanges. And there are a number of projects going on in the Bay Area, working on implementing those sorts of programs. We're watching that and investigating potential grant funding to implement something like that here in Sonoma County too. But yeah, I'd be happy to answer any questions. And there's not a lot going on right now, so I would just ask the group, we can take this off as a standing item for now and bring it back on as things develop, if that's okay with the group.
I'm okay with it coming off for now, but anyone want to weigh in and vote for it to be continuing as a standing item? Seeing none, I think you have your direction. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, everyone.
All right, onward to 7, TFCA TDA 3 quarterly reports. Is that you, Shauna?
It's generally it would be Dana, but Dana is out of the office today, so I will just say that the reports are in the agenda packet, and if there are any questions, I'll be happy to bring them forward.
Sounds good. So email your questions to Dana and or Shauna. Item 8, Measure M, discussion action. Would you like to take all 4 of those as whole or go one by one, Shauna?
I'll be happy to. Thank you, Mr. Chair. The first one is the invoicing obligation status. This is simply in the agenda packet as a reminder to you all that if you have funds appropriated or if you have funds programmed and you haven't yet appropriated them, that the policy requirement is that you invoice a minimum of every 6 months. And if you are approaching that 6-month deadline, your line item will be yellow. And if you are past that deadline, your line item will be red. We have questions on that.
Sorry, real quick question from Rob. I believe you received our invoices for these in the beginning of January. Okay, just
beginning
clarify.
of January, and it came in after the agenda packet.
Thanks.
When it got to my hands, it was past the agenda packet. So
No problem. I just want to make sure. Thanks.
I do have questions about those invoices, so I'm in contact with Bashar.
Perfect. Thank you.
The next item is the maintenance of effort reminder. I'm going to navigate to that real quick. There it is. Okay, now I'm going to share my screen real quick. Oh, host is disabled. Can I share, please?
You should be able to now.
Everybody can see my screen. There we go. This is what I wanted. So the maintenance of effort is policy 4.14, I think, and in the Measure M strategic implementation plan, that is the requirement that all of the jurisdictions that receive LSR funding maintain the same amount of general fund spending that they had before the measure. And so the reporting for that is due on February 15th each year. We are, it starts to be due essentially in December after you complete your reporting to the state for the SB1 funds. It's essentially the same report. It's the same information. So if you could get it done at the same time, that'd be great. But if you can't, we understand. I emailed out the reporting form in December. I emailed it out again today. So I have received reporting from 3 of the jurisdictions so far. Thank you for getting those in. If you haven't gotten it in, please do so. I will remind you that there were 3 jurisdictions last year that did not meet their minimum maintenance of effort requirement. Per the guidelines, we have a 3-year rolling average as we have a 3-year baseline, and then we compare the current year and the last 3 years as a rolling average to that 3-year baseline. And if you are below that amount, then that amount is deducted from your next year's allocation. So we had 3 jurisdictions that were out of compliance last year. And next item that we'll be talking about, the LSR LBT estimates for the next fiscal year. We are indicating that unless those jurisdictions come back into compliance, their allocations will be reduced by that amount. Happy to take any questions about the maintenance of effort requirement. To LSR and LVT, that is the local streets rehabilitation and the local bus transit allocations from Measure M. The estimates are due from the SCTA by February 1st every year. They are contained within the agenda packet. So this is the official notice. I will, in fact, send it out via email as well, but this is the official notice. So the LSR LBT estimates are provided each year. And this year, they're based on the allocation formula of 50% road miles, 50% population. Those are updated every year. The road mile allocation, the road mile portion of the formula is updated when you do your Measure M annual reporting for the year in September. Separate from the maintenance of effort reporting is the annual reporting that's required for all of the Measure M sponsors to essentially say how the funds were spent. And in the local streets rehab reporting letter, there is a line item that asks, it's an actual text question rather than part of the table that's filled out, but it asks, have your lane miles changed? And I get a lot of NA on that one. People, I think, don't understand what that question is. So if your lane miles have changed up or down, we need to know about it so that we can make sure that it's addressed properly in the formula. That's where that data goes. So if your lane miles have changed, particularly if they've gone up, which is usually the case when somebody adds, a little bit here or there, particularly if there's a new subdivision or something, then that will change your road mile formula. And we need to know about that. So I would be happy to answer any questions if there are any.
One simple question, Shauna, where do you guys get the population? Is that something we submit or do you get that off of?
No, I get that straight from the census, and it's based on what was reported for the previous year. So the census data that is used is for it's as of January 2022. And that is posted every year. So we wait for that to come out, generally in the first part of January of the following year. And then it accounts for the previous year.
Tony?
Yeah, I just had a question. When will you have the estimates for the Measure M allocations for next fiscal year? We're just starting to do budgets.
That's what this is.
The actual dollar amounts?
Yeah, that's,
Oh, okay, it's on the other.
sorry, there it is. No,
Okay,
that's
got
not
it.
it. Hang on.
Oh,
Find it. It should. I'm sorry, there we go. So these are,
oh, okay.
yeah, there we go. That's it right there.
All righty. Great. Thank you.
Any other questions? Assuming that concludes item 8, we
Yes.
will go on to item 9. Inactive federal obligation status.
Actually, before we get there, I have one more item in the Measure M items, Mr. Chair, which is the proposed amendments to the expenditure plan.
Oh, sorry, that's a good one. Moving too fast on your behalf.
Thank you. I appreciate the effort. So SCTA has been working with all of the Measure M project sponsors, but most particularly with the project sponsors in the LSP category, the local streets project category. We are nearing the sunset of Measure M, and there are a number of projects that have not moved forward for a number of reasons, and as they had originally been anticipated to do. So we are proposing some amendments to the expenditure plan to make the funds a little bit more accessible. So there are 4 proposed amendments to the expenditure plan. Amendments to the expenditure plan are allowed once annually. The last time we did an expenditure plan amendment was in 2010. So when this expenditure plan takes place, its amendment takes place, if the board approves it, then we would not be able to do another amendment for at least another year after that date. We are required to notice the Board of Supervisors and all of the city councils that this would happen. So that notification would be considered that the clock would start as of when the board approves these proposed amendments. The proposed amendments are to adjust the project title and project description of the Forestville bypass to say just Forestville, and to remove Caltrans as an implementing agency and to adjust the project description slightly to remove reference to the bypass itself, since that is no longer a preferred option in the city of, well, in the town of Forestville. The second amendment proposed is to increase the Measure M sales tax share for Kern Avenue interchange by $12 million from the original $9 million to $21 million. That is to cover, fully fund that project, along with a lot of other funds that are coming from other places. And then the third proposed change is to increase the sales tax share for the State Route 116, 121 intersection improvement project by $2 million from $7 million to $9 million to make minor changes to the project description as well. And then the fourth change, which is the fairly large one, is to adjust funding levels of projects in the local streets projects program to account for projects that have not progressed as originally anticipated. And that is, we are essentially proposing to all of the projects that haven't moved forward thus far to zero. If you have, so if no money has been spent, or if very little money has been spent and there is nothing further programmed, then the money will be reduced to zero for that project. And then we are proposing to create a reserve that would be available to all of the projects still listed in the program, and that would be available on a first come, first served basis. And it would be, it would require that projects are ready to move forward before we program and allocate funds to that project. But it essentially creates a single fund that all of the projects that are still listed in that program could use. So so let me show you what that looks like. For Pengrove, there are some other funds programmed, but we would propose taking out what is not yet programmed. So you can see those numbers on the right. So this included here is a red line of what the expenditure plan was and what we are proposing, and the changes are proposed in red. So we're changing the amount here, which, you know, you can see all of that. And then this is the creation of that reserve fund. With that, I would be happy to take any questions before I ask for action from the TAC.
No questions? I have a question, a little more detail on the first come, first serve from the reserve. So this has to be a project already listed in Measure M.
That's correct.
And it has to be ready to go. But what exactly does ready to go mean?
I think that would be determined in consultation with the project sponsor, but I would think that, you know, depending on the project, is there a PID involved? Is there, how is it through, is it even into environmental? Where are we starting? What is the request for funding? Are we talking about construction funds? Are we talking about an earlier phase? Do we want design money? So all of that would have to be done in consultation with the project sponsor. But it would require that there was some demonstration on the part of the project sponsor that there was commitment from the council or the supervisors.
And does this include the bike and ped program of Measure M as
We're
well?
not including the bike and ped program at this point because that program has been so severely oversubscribed. We don't have a problem spending that money. And because essentially what might be left, it is probably not left because we are going based on projections. We're looking at about 96% of what we had originally anticipated to collect in revenues. So that 4% is essentially wiped out by not making our estimates. Does that make sense?
Steve?
Yeah, so I went a little faster, Shauna. Is this still going to require the 50% match?
Yes,
If you're reallocating so that those conditions still exist?
that's
Okay.
correct.
All right.
Ken?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Shauna, is there a scoring criteria and what's the timeline for this?
No scoring criteria because it is only applied to those projects that are already in the measure, already in the program. So there are, I think if I go backwards here, you can see there are only further. So there are 11 projects in the program. We're proposing this 12th line item in the LSP program, but it would only be available to these other projects in the program. So there is no scoring involved. The timeline to move forward is this will be going to the Citizens Advisory Committee for a recommendation on Monday. And then it's going before the board on February 6th. If our board approves the proposed amendments to the expenditure plan, then the clock would start ticking for 45 days. Because presumably taking it to our board where there are 3 supervisors and a representative from each one of the jurisdictions that serves as notice. And then if there are any comments to be received, we would have to receive them within 45 days to be addressed, or it would take these proposed amendments would take effect after 45 days. Did that answer your question, Ken?
Yeah, and but it doesn't look like Petaluma has anything really on the list
Not in the
here.
LSP category. No, you guys had Old Red, and that money is complete. That project is delivered, and that money is completely spent.
Okay, thank you.
Rob?
Yeah, can components of the project be requested funding for that? I mean, so like if we needed to update our environmental document for Farmers Lane extension or something like that, we not need the whole 10 million, but can components of the project be requested, or does it have to be the entire?
So, I mean, at this point, I think as long as it is within the scope of the project as described in the measure, then yes.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Larry, just real quick, I want to follow up Rob's kind of question, Shauna. So if just want to kind of explain the intent here in the office. Is the intent of this is maybe to get a list of projects executed and completed versus kind of sort of there. I mean, Rob, I appreciate your comment because I had some similar thoughts, but is there going to be some waiting for projects that would be done within the measure's term versus maybe getting a project through environmental or right away, and then the measure, suspends, and then we're into go Sonoma, and then we're kind of fumbling around later, right? I know these don't cross over, but
So this money doesn't go away. It's currently being collected. It has been collected. Right now, we have a surplus in LSP.
Right.
So I don't see it as a problem. This money has just been sitting there waiting to be spent. We've used it on a number of occasions for inter-program loans because there are a number of large projects that have not moved forward. So those inter-program loans have been paid back, and that money is there waiting.
Got it. So the schedule could extend way past the termination date of Measure M.
That's right.
And the funds could live there for a while. So
That's right.
execution's not necessarily within
the
that
next 2
time
years.
frame
That's
is necessary. Okay, I got it. All right.
That's correct. But as we near the end of the measure, where we're collecting funds, we feel an obligation to move as many projects forward as possible.
Certainly.
We are getting close. Obviously we need a couple $1 million for 116, 121, and we need quite a bit more than that for Hearn in order to move those projects forward. But with that money, those projects will be delivered and off the list. And then the rest of the funding would be available to those projects that have yet to be delivered.
Okay.
So if there are no more questions, then staff is recommending that the TAC recommend approval of our recommendation, which is, sorry, don't get sick while I scroll around. Go back to that. It's not bookmarked in the version that I am looking at, so I'm not looking at the right place here.
You're making us dizzy, Shauna.
I know, I apologize. So staff is recommending that the TAC recommend approval of the proposed adjustments to the Measure M expenditure plan and direction of staff to notify the Board of Supervisors and the City Councils of the amendment by letter immediately. The amendment will take place 45 days after the notice is given. So we're asking for that recommendation to the board from the TAC.
Would someone care to make that motion?
I move to approve. Or move to put that motion on the table.
Do we have a second?
This is Greg Scott Katati. I'll second that motion.
With exuberance. So we have a motion and a second. Do we have anyone opposed? Seeing none, it kind of passes. I do have a question, and sorry if I missed it or a misunderstanding. Is there a scenario where there's reserve money left over that ultimately isn't getting spent because of the limited number of projects that can spend it?
I mean, I think in that scenario, we end up with a loan situation. But I don't know the answer to that because we would have to exhaust, the board would have to act on the remaining projects and say, we acknowledge that these projects are not going to move forward. And if that were the case, then they can consider other projects. And at that point, it would probably end up being a loan, but it could be to another project that, you know, if we were to cross all of the other projects off the list.
Okay.
But I don't see that happening. I see us spending it before that happens.
Okay, thank you. All right, if everyone's ready to move on, we're making good time. I don't have to rush as much. Item 9, the regional information update, starting with the inactive obligation status.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So you guys get this every month. The inactive obligations are the projects that receive federal funding that have been allocated that have not invoiced in 6 months. Similar to Measure M, only much more stringent and with the threat that your money will be taken away. So as a region and as a state, we are supposed to try to keep our federal inactive obligations down to 2% of the overall allocations that we receive. And we have, as a region, been doing better, but we still have to work hard to get those projects off the list. So there are a number of projects listed. You know who you are. I received an update from the county, and we could try to go over the other ones that are outstanding at the moment. This a little bit bigger so that I can see it. Nope. I'm going to share again real quick. Okay, so hopefully everybody can see my screen. There are, as I said, I have received report out from the county, so we'll skip all of those. The rest of the projects listed are from Petaluma, and there is one from Healdsburg. If it's in yellow, it usually means that it's, oh no, I'm sorry, if it's orange, it means it's being considered. But if it's yellow, it means that you must take action. So we've got one for Santa Rosa, we've got Santa Rosa, Sonoma County, on the projects that are more than $50,000 balance remaining. So if I scooch over, Rob, and look.
Yeah, we are taking action on ours.
That is the Santa Rosa in downtown.
Yep, that one's been processed. That one's in Caltrans right now.
Oh, excellent. Glad to hear it. Okay. So the next option is, let's see if I go to the next page. Chase Street Bridge. Oriana, I know you've told me you were waiting for something to move forward so that you could get that one going.
Yeah, our design engineer had a bust in the right of way. So when we would put together our E76 for construction package in the fall, well, it was actually over the summer. A local surveyor had made us aware of that. So we're sort of fighting through redoing the right of way for this teeny little strip of TCE. We should have it done this month. So we're still pushing forward, trying to get that package together in the next month or so, but it's not being as fast as we'd like it to be.
Okay, so this is. So. But this is for, so you're having trouble obligate or re-obligating because this is on something that you already have obligation for. So you're unable to finish right away in order to move to construction. That's what you're saying.
Yes.
Okay.
We're not unable. We just haven't finished it yet.
Okay. But the reason you haven't invoiced is.
We don't have any 76 for construction. There's no money in any of the other funds.
Because there's $18,000 or $18 million, right?
That's our construction money that was obligated
this
to
is
federal fiscal.
I see. I gotcha. Okay, I'm on board now. You obligated them at the same time. Haven't been able to move forward.
Yep.
Is that what you're saying? Okay. Got it now. All right. And then there's these fun ones. I'm just going to bring those up. These, I can find them. These are the fun ones that have no balance or 10 cents balance, but they are hanging out here and need to be taken off the list. We know that Mart has, I've seen the report was submitted, Joanne. I know I've seen the correspondence trying to get them to take that one off the list. Windsor also has been processed and is completed. I saw that report completed, so I know that that one should come off the list. So those are on Caltrans to take those off. The rest of the Sonoma, the ones from Sonoma County, I'm assuming are on Nader's list. So I think that one is done. So I can move on from this item. I'm going to stop sharing. The item.
Okay. I'm here, just getting back to my agenda. I thought I heard you say Healdsburg at one point on inactive, and so I started searching because I wasn't seeing that.
It was on there, but it was your invoice is under consideration. It's been submitted and it's under consideration. So
yeah, it has gone through Ken and it's at headquarters or finance there or whatever.
If it's in Caltrans hands, I don't make you report out on it.
Okay. All right, onward. SCTA funding program cycle 1 final programming.
So you all will remember how we went through the call for projects, and then we did the whole scoring thing, and then we had a draft program of projects that the board approved in September. Then there was a submittal to MTC by the end of September, and MTC, and I sent out by email, MTC made their decisions about the One Bay Area Grant Cycle 3 funds in early January. We got the amount of our target, which was great, but there were 2 projects that we submitted that were not selected to move forward. This was part of the scenario that we planned for. So we have money in Go Sonoma that we can put onto those 2 projects to fully fund the SCTA funding program as it was proposed to the board in September. We're asking for the TAC to recommend that that be the action taken. The staff report in your.
Does anyone have any questions for Shauna on that? The chart shows the changes in the agenda packet. Not seeing any questions? Oh, Steve, go ahead. You will need to unmute.
My screen's a little bit of a mess right now. Sorry, Sean, I'm getting dizzy too. So, how is that going to be tracked? Is it going to go towards any funding for those individual agencies, or in Go Sonoma as we move forward and start working through how we're working through projects and applications and blah, 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 all that stuff in the new sales tax? How is that going to be tracked? And, that's my question. Sorry, I know Measure M. I don't have Measure or Go Sonoma in my head right now, so I can't figure out how that's going to all work out. So maybe explain how that might go towards that funding pool.
Okay, so as you'll recall, Measure M has a program of projects that were approved by the voters. So each program had projects enumerated, and we couldn't deviate from that. Go Sonoma is not like that. Go Sonoma has categories, move traffic, improve safety, and there's another one. But it, yes, and bike program, essentially. And so those are funding categories, and our first call for projects was this SCTA funding program. So this first round of funding will come out of the first revenues that we have. We'll have another call for projects in a year or two, but in the meantime, we have to write the Go Sonoma strategic implementation plan. That's due to be done by the end of this year, so that we have policies and procedures that will apply to these funds. All of the funds that are available in Go Sonoma are in the future years, so we have time to do that.
And that starts 2025, is that right? Do I have that?
That's right. We start collecting in 2025.
See, I told you, Hunter, it's 2025.
Did that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
Mona?
So I'm on, is that, so that 1.54 million for Old Redwood Highway, is that then, I'm just looking at that, so you're saying that we're gonna be able to get that through Go Sonoma?
That's correct. That's what we're proposing.
But if we're not collecting till 2025, when could we possibly use the money for construction?
Depending on when you asked for it, we might be able to work out a loan between Measure M and Go Sonoma. We haven't gotten that far yet. We'll have a better idea once we write the strategic implementation plan. But the money is there, and it has been, so those two that are in pink on that chart in the agenda packet, those were the ones that we submitted to MTC. The MTC did not select to move forward. So we're proposing to move them forward with Go Sonoma instead. If they're ready to go and everything, then we'll work it out. We'll do some sort of a funding swap.
Oh, and then one more question. So we had asked most of that to go towards construction, but can it go towards design also? Or is it?
It will go towards what you guys asked for in your application.
Oh, we asked for. Okay. All right, thank you.
Ken?
Okay, I think Mona asked all the questions that I sort of had, but the timing of it is probably most critical, because we could likely move that, forward in the next year. And if I have that opportunity, I definitely seize upon it. So I just have to kind of, reiterate what Mona was saying there. If there's, opportunity to go move it earlier than 2025, that would be appreciated. Thanks.
Okay, well, we can talk about that. We obviously have to get cooperative agreements in place for all of the projects that are going to move forward, and we don't have those yet. So that would be the first order of business. Once we get this approved, then we will start writing the strategic implementation plan, all those policies, and drafting templates for all of our cooperative agreements. We would have to have some demonstration from the project sponsors that this project is ready to go.
Steve?
I was going to say, I'm happy to volunteer our OBAG 3 money, Mona, if you want to spend that money, and we'll happily take the the Go Sonoma money if.
That is not how that works. I'm sorry, sir. As much as I'm sure you would like to have it.
Maybe on a 2-to-1 basis or something, Steve.
Sometimes it's good to be lucky, right?
Any other questions for Shauna?
So staff
Right.
is looking for a recommendation to the board of the final programming, which is what we had planned for in September. It would fully.
First, we have a question from Craig.
Yeah, just that, this first I heard about the loan to advance those funds sooner than when they're available from Go Sonoma. I guess they're guaranteed by Go Sonoma. So that's what makes that possible. Is there any like discounting of those funds for that? Any due to the additional costs involved, or is it 1-for-1 for the face value?
Face value.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
See if you,
Okay.
thank you.
that's
With
great.
with the required, match for whatever the program is, I think it's 15%, minimum of 15% for all the Go Sonoma programs.
I do appreciate how aggressively SCTA is being to matching up funding to what we provided. So I really appreciate that.
Agreed. So if there are no more questions, do we have a motion approving or recommending the final programming to the SCTA board?
I'd be happy to make that motion. Craig Scott Katati.
I'll second it. Gotcha, Ken.
So we have a motion and a second. Do we have anyone opposed? No one opposed. That passes unanimously.
So much, everyone. I really appreciate it.
Onward, the SCTA RCPA board meeting on February 6th. Anything to share?
Sorry, I had struggled finding that mute button. It's only been 3 years. So I have in front of you the February 6th board SCTA RCPA board agenda. Just items going to include the notes, the resolution to authorize teleconferencing, a briefing book for 2023 Q2 financials, federal appropriations letter, consultant services, and a budget adjustment for RCPA, consultants task order, agreement with Caltrans, a cooperative agreement with Petaluma, the Measure M annual 2022 annual report with SCTA items. And then housekeeping for regular calendar items include election of the board officers, the SCTA RCPA annual report, the overall work plan and legislative principles. SCTA items include the TERSIP grant, the funding program that you had just recommended approval for, the countywide active transportation request for proposals plan, the 2004 expenditure plan amendments, and then RCPA includes the tree protection model ordinance report and a update for the funding for climate ad hoc. If you have any questions, Shauna is here.
Not seeing any questions. Thank you for that, Drew. Roundtable discussion. We haven't broken up by item, but feel free to jump in with whatever.
I have something to contribute, Mr. Chair, before we
Please.
get on to much, which is, I don't know if everybody saw the news, but RM3 has passed its challenge in the courts, and the challenge has been rejected. So RM3 will be moving forward. That means quite a lot of money to be freed up into the region, particularly for SMART and getting us to Windsor and Healdsburg. So that was great news.
That is great news, especially for Windsor and Healdsburg. Steve?
Before we get too excited about that, the result was kind of odd, and people that are close to it are wondering if something didn't get missed. So I would wait a week before putting all our thoughts on the result there.
Well, it's certainly a milestone that we can celebrate one way or the other.
Well,
But it's not, I mean, the money's not flowing tomorrow. I understand that part, but
no,
we did pass a milestone.
I'm saying that the Supreme Court's order was odd, and there will probably be a challenge. So let's celebrate next week if it sticks.
Got it. Thank you, Steve.
Thanks for that, Steve. Anyone have anything to share regarding grants being pursued, bid environment, the storms? Maybe that might be a good thing. Does anyone have anything to share about the storms and recovery there, or concerns?
There is an item in the agenda packet regarding the resiliency requirements and emergency storm repairs that we got from the state. That's in your packet for your information, but I would love to hear about any challenges or successes that anybody had in that regard.
I can
And I'd
go.
love to hear if anyone's pursuing that. Steve?
Oh, I'm sorry. You know, I don't know. The numbers keep going as we keep inspecting and finding some things, and you know, some damage continues to show up. So, you know, it's clearly not as bad as the 2019 floods. But you know, there's still some impacts. You've probably seen in the paper, you know, the Salmon Creek thing. We'll probably get a bridge there now instead of a couple twin culverts. So lots of stuff like that for us. It's, you know, our road maintenance guys are amazing and continue to do incredible stuff out there while all this is going on, and the rest of us are hiding with the fires lit and all that kind of stuff. So it's pretty good. We're doing okay, but you know, we've got a few EA projects that we're going through the process with now. So, but you know, knock on wood, as much water as we got, we did pretty good.
Yeah, I think most agencies would say the same, and I think we would also say the same about the county crews. All right, no, any other business announcements, comments? Rob?
Yeah, I was just wondering, and maybe this is for Shauna, is there going to be any training on the new FMS database platform that you're aware of?
Yes, they've done it twice already, and they are planning to do it again. I have requested that they do it again, and I know that they are planning on it. So we'll make sure that announcement goes out to the TAC as soon as I get it.
Thank you.
If there's nothing else, we have plenty of time for Shauna to get to her dentist appointment. I look forward to the gold teeth with the diamond in it, if that's what you're doing.
I'll premiere next
time. With that, we are adjourned at 2:24. Thank you, everyone. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Take care.